Hello, L2DL audience. We're excited to welcome you to our virtual presentation entitled Designing Learning Environments that Promote Equity and Inclusion. We have a large interdisciplinary team working on this project. We come from many disciplinaries, and our strength lies in our transdisciplinary perspectives. Today, you will hear from Wen, Leslie Sult, Blaine Smith, and Joe Castek. This work was recently funded by NSF, and we are just at the beginning stage of this effort. We're excited to share our thinkings with you. We also welcome you to get involved. Contact information can be found at the end of this recording. We look forward to continuing the dialogue with you. So, where are we heading today? We have segmented this presentation into three parts. First, the features of interactive learning environments. Second, the review of recent publications that address equity and inclusion. And third, we intend to bring more attention to both the design and implementation of interactive learning spaces and bring more attention to promote greater equity and inclusion. Maybe you are wondering about what the interactive learning environment look like. Think about different locations in our daily life. These locations are including but not limited to schools, museums, community centers, libraries, universities, after-school clubs, organizations, hospitals, and community colleges across public spaces, special events, and festivals. These spaces are interactive. They make learning hands-on, and they are as rich in learning interactions as they are fun. But how do these spaces promote interactive learning? It can provide the networks of experts both face-to-face and online. They encourage and nurture learning through apprenticing the development of new skills among and between experts and novices. Collaboration is another key feature, which allows the learners enact processes of discovery, experimentation, and problem solving. And also, engagement and participation are promoted in this learning environment. Fully engagement and participation can yield tangible products of learning, such as physical objects, blueprints, science models, computer programs, or anything a learner can dream of. In these environments, learners set their own goals in what they want to explore and engage with, and all the activities are not time limited.
These learning spaces create a dynamic interaction between the use of digital technologies and making. These new environments encourage contextualized language use for a variety of learners in informal and invitational ways. Whether learners come from the same or different language backgrounds, these new learning environments introduce purposeful contexts for learning, practicing, and using language while engaging in constructive processes of learning and making. Interactive learning environments draw from the practice of studio-based learning, which has a long tradition in fields such as fine arts and architecture. One way these learning spaces can function is as an art studio would, with a guide walking around the class answering questions and giving feedback to learners on their work. This is one of the great benefits of studio-based learning, since other learners overhear feedback and comments. This may help correct misconceptions learners that were either too nervous to voice or unaware they even had. These spaces build community while they help to build language. Why draw inspiration from studio-based learning principles? Studio-based learning gives learners the opportunity to engage in authentic learning experiences. When the pedagogy is intentionally designed and the tools are thoughtfully integrated, these spaces allow people to build alongside one another, ask questions, share ideas, and make time to participate in reflective conversations. At their best, these spaces also foster an environment where learning from mistakes is as crucial as learning from successes. Why do these principles matter? These are learning environments where the learning process is iterative, where people are learning by doing and are engaged in activity that builds community that values what all learners bring. Ideally, all individuals engaged in a makerspace approach one another with the assumption that they bring embedded knowledge from their previous experiences in their families and communities, and that these can be used to inform the structures of making and learning within this space. Questions are asked and answers are listened to. Communication is natural and flows from a genuine need to discuss, explore ideas, and exchanges are connected to activity. Whether learners work on their own project or on a group project, interaction with one another in the act of purposeful activity gives them the opportunity to see what other learners are producing, compare it with their own work, ask questions and get feedback from their peers and knowledgeable others, and creates a rich communication and collaboration environment that's an ideal space to foster language learning.
Despite the benefits of these learning environments, we need to recognize the challenges. Although the practices associated with making have deep roots across cultures and genders, many makerspaces are struggling to overcome a narrow economic view of who makers are and what makers do. In 2017, a survey of youth focused on makerspaces was conducted by Pepler and colleagues, and they found while overall makerspaces seem to be continuing to serve diverse populations in terms of ability, age, and gender, they're actually becoming less diverse. Sustainable programs for diversifying access to learning environments requires researchers to identify and address existing barriers to participation. We believe it takes multidisciplinary groups and perspectives to examine and help address these issues. Considering the variation of these learning environments, principles for promoting equity are needed that span different contexts and different learners. To bring together a multidisciplinary group to address these issues of equity and participation, we are organizing a workshop funded by the National Science Foundation that will take place in late February at the University of Arizona Biosphere 2. The reason why Biosphere 2 is an ideal space for this gathering is because it is an innovative center for conducting scientific research. It offers an iconic setting with retreat and conference facilities and an overnight capacity for up to 200 individuals. The goal for this workshop is to excite participants about state-of-the-art research, explore scientific methods, and connect to the scientific community all around the overarching theme. The workshop will be organized by 5 overarching tracks that address critical questions for designing learning environments optimally for equity and inclusion. First, design principles and practices that promote the inclusivity of learning spaces. Methods for documenting learning in ways that are linked to outcomes and impacts for all learners. Opportunities to use new technologies in diverse settings for diverse purposes. Structures and tools for facilitating and promoting dialogue and peer-to-peer learning. And designing features that maximize the intersection between diverse learners, the learning environment, and new technologies.
The idea of this workshop is very different. Oftentimes, workshops are organized so that there's a delivery of information and participants take that information in and learn from it. However, the goal of this workshop is different. This is a synthesis and design workshop which will be composed of many different kinds of active learning processes. The goal of this workshop is to build networks and cement hybrid interactions that link face-to-face and online participation. All the while, we are amidst rich and robust activities that prompt our understanding and thinking toward design principles for participation, diversity, and inclusivity. The workshop will bring together many different constituent groups with common interests in making, problem solving, and innovation. It will involve participants from all kinds of stakeholder groups, including researchers, practitioners, and others who work in this design space. Those from multiple backgrounds will have time to share their challenges and priorities and continue those dialogues that begin in face-to-face into virtual settings. All the while, we in the room will address next generation skills, building them for ourselves and our learners. These include creativity, problem solving, evidence-based decision, and collaborative design. At the conclusion of the workshop and beyond, we intend to distribute outcomes, expertise, and diverse knowledge across the community in order to build relationships between studio makerspace ideals with digital connectivity to enhance access and diverse perspectives. What does the field have to gain from these efforts? We believe a targeted focus on equity, inclusion, and participation cements diversity as a core value of these learning environments. We also intend to forge sustainable partnerships around common interests that will grow and develop. It is an honor and a pleasure to be able to connect these ideas, which often live in STEM disciplines, in this environment focused on language development and language learning, because we believe that this multidisciplinary perspective brings new insight to bear in the development of these accessible learning spaces. We thank you for your time today. We hope we've whetted your appetite for some initial ideas around our thinking and our planning for this project, but we invite you to get involved by contacting our team of experts connected across our groups, including the College of Education, the University of Arizona Libraries, the College of Science and Biosphere II, STEM Learning Center, and Office of Digital Learning. For more information, please contact us. And we thank you so much for your time, effort, and energy today in listening to this presentation. Thanks.